Hello, Mermaid. So I've been asked to do some more videos when it comes to paganism and um, and how to deal with being pagan in a very Christian environment. And one thing that I've been asked quite a few times is about coming out of the broom closet, telling your family that you are practicing paganism or that you're a practicing occultist. Now, I might be a bad person to ask for this because I never had to be in a broom closet. Because I come from a very liberal family where my mother is a New Ager. So, yeah, it never really was an issue. I just told her one day, this is the religion I decided to follow. And she was, oh, okay. That was about the length and extent of it. So, however, I know for a lot of people this is difficult, and it's not just with a Christian family, it could be with any religion, or even an atheist family, to go and say that you are now practicing witchcraft, I think can be very difficult. And so, from my experience talking with others and so on and so forth, I would like to give a few pieces of advice on how you might be able to do this less scary and more successfully. Now, I will basically say this in two sections. One is for those that are under the age of 18 or whatever age of that makes you legally your own person in the nation you live in, and the other for people that are over that age that can do what they want with their lives. So if you start with teenagers, generally it could be younger too, but generally teenagers. A lot of people criticize me when I say that no, teenagers too, if their parents don't allow them to practice their religion, they should do so in secret because, oh, you are advocating that children disobey their parents. Yeah, in some things. Here's the thing. The freedom of religion is a human right. It's right there in written among the other human rights is the freedom of religion. So a parent have no right whatsoever to deny a child from practicing whatever religion that child deems they want to practice. So no, I'm not advocating that children ignore their parents on all matters, but that doesn't mean you should have blind obedience either. There are areas where, yes, if a parent denies a child this, that parent is in the wrong. The same as with if you have a teenager that the way the parent denies them getting condoms and other ways to have practice safe sex. You know these teenagers are going to practice that sex. Yeah, then you ignore your parent and you go and you get condoms. Because there are some things when it comes to your safety and when it comes to your religion, when it comes to a few basic things like that, that a parent denying their child this are in the wrong. However, let me get on to some advice. First of all, you have to look at the situation you're in. What sort of parents do you have? What do they believe? If they are die-hard, born-again Baptists, there's a good chance that it doesn't matter what you say. They are going to react negatively anyway. And there are some cases where it is better to just stay in the broom closet until you are old enough to decide things for yourself. Because telling your parents if they are bees born again, everything is evil, everything basically you know the type, then it's not gonna matter how gently you break it to them. I wonder what my bangs are doing here. Anyway, it doesn't matter how you break it to them. They are going to react negatively. However, if you have parents that might be willing to listen, here's some advice. First of all, I recommend using a term like for example, if you're Wiccan, use Wicca instead of witchcraft, or paganism instead of witchcraft. That doesn't by any means mean that I say witchcraft is bad. I love witchcraft, but for some people, words like witchcraft and occult immediately bring their minds to horror movies, while something like Wicca or paganism doesn't. So you can begin to use those words once you've gotten the initial talk out of the way, because if they begin by just assuming that, oh, what you're talking about is evil, then their minds are just going to shut down. Basically, you have a function of the human mind. I have completely forgotten what it's called right now because I'm stupid. But basically, what it does is that it sort of just closes your mind down. You do not want to hear it, you do not want to learn from it, and you just stop learning. Very often, this will happen if you try to teach someone something and they just are convinced they cannot learn it. Then they will just shut down, and it doesn't matter how hard you try, you will never get through to them. So it's important to try to lessen that blow, so that I will be open to hearing what you're talking about. This section here, by the way, is relevant for both kids and adults that want to break it to their family. So I would say that saying the name of the religion or going with paganism is better than going with, hi, I'm practicing witchcraft, because that might give you the time you need to explain things. Then if they seem open enough to listen, then you should explain the tenets of your belief. Now, of course, I'm talking mostly from a Wiccanist perspective here, because it's in that camp I belong. But with any alternative religion, really, you sit down and you explain to them what this is. That no, you're not sacrificing kittens and beating old ladies. Explain to them, but try to keep it relatively short. Because, again, here you have this with information overload. You don't want them to get that. You want them to understand. So basically, you might want to practice how to explain your path in a relatively short period of time in a simple way. So, yeah, that's part of the advice, I would say. Make it relatively simple so that it's easy to grasp those tenets. A third thing is that you need to listen to their worries and then talk about it. Here's the thing: if they, for example, are Christian, they might have questions as, is this Satanism? Is it? Then if you immediately go on the defensive and get angry and insulted, then you will not get anywhere. Answer the questions calmly. And see if you can at least get to a point where you can agree to disagree. Another very important thing is that when you're going to have this discussion, don't choose right after an argument or anything of the like. Choose a time where everybody is calm, where you have a good time to sit and talk, so that you don't have the additional stress of having to get out the door or anything of that sort, in addition to the somewhat difficult topic that you are bringing up. So, yeah, those are basically general advice for what to do. And these are for both adults and kids. But what you should do with a reaction varies a little bit. If your parent goes completely ballistic or then refuse you to practice. Now, for if you are a child, then you have to decide how to respond to that. Remember, it doesn't matter if they toss your ritual tools and so on and so forth, those are useful, but the real tool in magic is you. So you can choose to say to your parent that no, this is my religion, I am going to practice it no matter what you do. But of course, then you will have to be prepared for consequences. They might take your allowance, ground you, make life very, very, very uncomfortable for you. And you might, but I think it's admirable if you choose to stay your ground and say, no, I'm practicing. You can take my ritual tools, I still have myself, I can still do the rituals with just my voice and my body and my mind. So that's one thing to do it. Another thing is you can, of course, on the surface agree with them and just continue to stay in the broom closet until you are ready to move out. Because here's the thing, there's a lot, for example, in Christian rituals that you can definitely see in a pagan light if you just view it that way. So depending on what Christian religion your parents are of, you can practice your spiritual path in the disguise of this Christian path. But basically, if your parent goes completely ballistic, those are the two choices you have. Either go back in the broom closet and hide it, either basically hiding in plain sight by viewing Christian beliefs as in a pagan light. This is simpler with, for example, Catholicism, where you can have a statue of the Maiden Mary and a crucifix, and they would be a god and goddess statues. There's a lot of things that you can do to incorporate your beliefs in the rituals you do with Christianity, or you can completely hide it and just do your rituals when you are on your own. Another thing that you can do, of course, is, like I said, stand on your right, but that might make life more uncomfortable to you. So basically, you have to make your choice of how to respond. If, however, your parent is open to discussing this, but are very uncomfortable with it, do take their feelings into consideration. So that, for example, if you're doing rituals with a lot of chanting, a lot of noise, and so on and so forth, do those when your parents are out of the home. Don't force it in their faces, because that's just begging for a confrontation. Be open and honest that this is what you practice, but keep it little bit on the down low, because that increases your chance that you will be left alone. If you have the best possible outcome, though, that your parents are completely okay with it, like mine were, then go ahead, practice all you want. But remember that as long as you are a minor, you are sort of quite restricted by your parents' rules. Now, like I said, I do not believe this include that you are not allowed to practice your religion. You are, and it's a douche move to, for example, take away ritual tools and so on and so forth, and punish you for practicing a religion they don't like. But your parent might do it anyway, and it's a very low chance that anyone will help you in that situation. So stay safe and think the situation through before you go and tell them. Now, if you are an adult and live on your own, you have some other options. Now, if your family completely denounces what you're doing and so on and so forth, you have the choice of either, hiding it, or you can practice as you please and risk losing your family if they go so overboard as that. It's you basically those. I know pagans that have to make that difficult choice, of either basically turning their back on their family because their family will not accept them for who they are, or hiding who they are. And most pagans I know have then chosen their fate over playing charades with their family. But then you have that choice of saying, okay, I love you, but this is my path, and I'm embracing you. You may come to me at any time, but I will not give up my faith. Or, of course, you can hide it. The same if you have somebody that's they accept it, but they're not very pleased with it. I would say, I would recommend usually the same thing. Practice as you please, but don't rub it in their noses. So when you are visiting your family for Christmas, don't choose the most noisy rituals to do right then and there. Don't put up a gigantic altar in your room and something like that. Keep it a little bit on the down low to prevent arguments. Of course, I'm not saying that you can't go completely, basically say, I don't care what I think. It is definitely something that's to be respected by doing that. However, if you're going to what will probably cause the least friction, I would recommend them being somewhat discreet. And then you have, when it comes to if they are completely accepted about it, then, well, do as you please. But basically, you have to make that choice. How much of your faith are you going to be willing to sacrifice to keep peace with your family? And it really isn't an easy choice to make. So basically, it is something that, and it's probably something you should have considered beforehand, instead of making that choice in the heat of the moment. If there are a heated argument, decided whatever or not that if your family refuses you or really are unaccepting, what will you do then? You should make that decision beforehand. And then there's some other concerns that's been talked about, what can happen when you go out of the broom closet. Well, there's quite a few employers that might fire you. They're not allowed to, but it can be costly to sue them for rules violations, and that might be a consequence. There's still so much discrimination around the world when it comes to paganism. There is a chance that your employer might sack you. I know people that have had problems with their kids, especially if they are divorced, that basically the court has given custody to the other parent because one of the parents are pagan, which is of course not acceptable, but it happens. I know one that were refused to adopt a child because they are a pagan household. So when coming out of the broom closet, you are putting yourself in harm's way in that regard. It is Violence do happen, but it's not very common. What is common, however, is some forms of social injustice, and that you might lose your job and you might have other that types of social issues if you stand up and declare yourself pagan. I am lucky in that regard, in that I live in a very liberal country, and I also am a housewife. I don't have to please an employer. But there are some risks, but I believe that the reward is worth it, to be able to stand and proudly declare that, yes, I am pagan, and it is your full right to do so. You have just as much right as a Christian or a Muslim or an atheist or a Hindu or any other path to stand up and declare yourself that, yes, this is what I believe. I am pagan, and I'm proud of it. It's not something I'm going to hide in shame because there are people that fear it and misunderstand it. But you have to think about how much are you willing to sacrifice to be able to do that. And I don't think that anybody should stand there with their fingers pointed and telling you what you should do in such a situation. Because it is your sacrifices to make or not, and the decision has to be yours alone. But you should, before you do anything, consider these. Consider what risks you are taking, and consider how to approach it in a calm and reasonable manner. So I hope this video was of help, and I wish you all a good day, and blessed be.